Okay, remember that they are changing my voice. So let me go through some key parts in Hosea 10. Start at the beginning. Israel was a spreading vine. He brought forth fruit for himself. As his fruit increased, he built more altars. As his land prospered, he adorned the sacred stones. He adorned his sacred stones, rather. Their heart is deceitful. Therefore lawsuits spring up, and now they must bear their guilt. The Lord will demolish their altars and destroy their sacred stones. Then they will say, "We have no king because we did not revere the Lord." But even if we had a king, what could he do for us? So they say they have no king, right? They're saying that they have no God, and then they have no representative to convey God's orders. And they say they have no king because they did not revere the Lord. And they said, even if they had a king, what could he do for us? So they're looking for a handout. They're saying, what can the king do for us in a way that is consistent with our cultural values? It's consistent with them and their expectations, their spoiled brat expectations. They make many promises, take false oaths and make agreements. Therefore lawsuits spring up like poisonous weeds in a plowed field. The people who live in Samaria fear for the calf idol of Beth Aven. Its people will mourn over it, and so will its idolatrous priests, those who had rejoiced over its splendor, because it is taken from them into exile. It will be carried to Assyria as tribute for the great king. Ephraim will be disgraced. Israel will be ashamed of its foreign alliances. So now what is Hosea telling you to do? He's telling you to worship God and to prefer death to assimilation. They're relying on the calf idol of Beth Aven, and they're being taken into captivity. Prefer the death of your flesh rather than being assimilated into Babylon's system. That's a key moral here. They became one with the idolatrous priests, the cult of the flesh, their selfish demands. They have certain idols, certain types of people with their certain types of flesh and thinking that is contrary to universal pinpointed moral precision. It says Ephraim will be disgraced and Israel will be ashamed of its foreign alliances, the state that they've come into. Samaria's king will be destroyed, swept away like a twig on the surface of the waters. The high places of wickedness will be destroyed. It is the sin of Israel. Thorns and thistles will grow up and cover their altars. Then they will say to the mountains, "Cover us," and to the hills, "Fall on us." Since the days of Gibeah you have sinned, Israel, and there you have remained. Will not war again overtake the evildoers of Gibeah? When I please, I will punish them. Nations will be gathered against them to put them in bonds for their double sin. Ephraim is a trained heifer that loves to thresh, so I'll put a yoke on her fair neck. I will drive Ephraim. Judah must plow, and Ephraim must break up the ground. It's saying that Judah and Ephraim, and everyone else who wants to be right with God, must scramble to do the work of God. He must face the idolaters, those who are worldly. He must try to claim the world for the Lord Almighty. Though this ends in the world being purposely, yes, being lost in wickedness. Because it says in Isaiah 57, the righteous are taken away. Now, why are they taken away? Because they're saying it's not good enough to be an idolater, and they're facing idolaters. It says, sow righteousness for yourselves, reap the fruit of unfailing love, and break up your unplowed ground, for it is time to seek the Lord until he comes and showers his righteousness on you. So at any given time, you're supposed to do what's right. But they've added the element of, it's time. Telling the person, right now, like every other time, it's time to seek the Lord. It's time to do what's right. Until he comes and showers his righteousness on you. Sow that righteousness, sow that unfailing love, which is a love derived from universal pinpoint and moral precision, from true justice. But you have planted wickedness. You have reaped evil, and you have eaten the fruit of deception, because you have depended on your strength and your many warriors. As opposed to being willing to be crucified while everyone is against you, you relied on the strength of the crowd. The word coward is a play on words for a crowd. It's scrambled in there. It's called an anagram. Because you have depended on your own strength and on your many warriors instead of standing 10 toes down for God Almighty, the one true God. The roar of battle will rise against your people, so that all your fortresses will be devastated. Al-Shalman devastated Beth Arbel on the day of battle, when mothers were dashed to the ground with their children. So will it happen to you, Bethel, because your wickedness is great. When that day dawns, the king of Israel will be completely destroyed. Now, what do we see as the pattern in the Bible here? We see here in the last verse it says, when that day dawns, the king of Israel will be completely destroyed. When the sun rises, right, the path of the righteous is like the morning sun, shining ever brighter to the full light of day. When God sends his son, which is me, in the end, and that day has come, the day dawns. Because of their refusal to obey God through me, the planet will be cut off from God, the human race will be cut off from God after my flesh dies. And the possibility for Israel to have a king, or any other group to have a true king, will be completely destroyed. And in one of many ways, and in one of many points, the kingdom of heaven, according to the story, will be taken away from them and given to a new people formed by God, who will do the work of God, who have been chosen because they have sowed righteousness and they reap the fruit of unfailing love. So when we connect verse 15 to verse 3, it says, then they will say, we have no king because we did not revere the Lord. But even if we had a king, what could he do for us? Well, that leads to them not having a king. As they said by their actions, give us Barabbas, and they got misery and hardship and suffering, according to mainstream history as well. And they said by their actions that they have no king, and the king won't make them rich, he won't give them fair weather women, won't make them feel like they're important, won't unfairly elevate them, etc. So will it be that trouble will come. The roar of battle will rise against your people, so that all your fortresses will be devastated as Shalman devastated Beth Arbel on the day of battle. He's comparing it to an actual battle, almost certainly. But the essence of that battle, when mothers were spiritually dashed to the ground, regardless if it was literal or not, with their children, right, with their offspring. So will happen to you, Bethel. So will happen to the inhabitants of the earth, because their wickedness is great. As I came into the world, it was the period of the dawn, when the king of Israel will be completely destroyed. And at the end of the period, it will be complete. That is the situation. Beth Aven means house of wickedness, a derogatory term or name for Bethel, which means house of God. So you've turned Jesus of Bethlehem against you. Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus of the house of God, and you've chosen Jesus Barabbas of the house of wickedness. So your Beth Aven, your Bethel rather, is Beth Aven, which means the house of wickedness, instead of the house of David, instead of the root and offspring of righteousness, instead of the root and offspring of the way, the truth, and the life. Thank you.